everyone, welcome. It's Dan from Nomadic to Nowhere. This is my 2005 Lexus GX470 and this has the V8 motor. This is the 2UZ-FE engine, 8 cylinders. And today we're going to be attempting to replace the valve cover gasket seals because mine are currently leaking and it's dripping a lot of oil down on the driveway. So stay tuned, watch me show you some tips and tricks on how to replace the valve cover gasket. I went ahead and ordered a Felpro seal kit from Amazon. I even got some extra tools to help out with the job, a seal puller, ultra black Permatex to prevent some oil leaking from the corners, and then this is a hose clamp remover. These are going to be in the description. They are affiliate links. They help out the channel to grow. And stay tuned. I'm going to start taking things apart here and show you how it's done. All right, so first things first is we got to remove the air box and get all the ducting out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Undo the clip, air sensor. You want to be really careful when you're prying these electrical connectors because you don't want to break them. All right. You got your air filter. Next we want to remove the air filter housing. Okay, perfect. It's a 12 millimeter for the air filter housing. We want to disconnect our vacuum line hoses because we need all of this out of the way. Let's see. So here's where that hose clamp tool comes handy. And it locks into place so you can easily slide it back and release it. There's another one down here. All right, so you want to make as much as room possible, removing any excess vacuum lines. So we might have to get some new ones. All right. Next, we need to remove the ignition coil, so be careful again here. You don't want to break any of these clips. This is a flat screwdriver here to release the catch. Okay, great. Also, do yourself a favor and get yourself one of these. I'll drop a link in the description. I got this one off of Amazon, but an electric ratchet will definitely help you speed up this job by a lot. Okay, so you want to be careful with your ignition coils. You don't want to drop them or damage them. I did replace these not too long ago, so they're all in pretty good shape. Now would also be a good time to service your spark plugs if you got to replace them. They're just down in the tubes here. Okay, and it looks like we have I think it's the variable valve timing, some kind of solenoid or sensor. So we got to remove this harness. Okay, so if anyone else off-roads like I do, you're probably going to be in some dusty desert environments. And we want to do a good job. First, you want to plug up your intake, and next we want to go ahead and blow out this valley right here because there's a lot of dust and dirt that just sits there. And when we pull out the valve cover, we want to make sure none of that gets into the engine. Just go ahead and get our air. There we go. That way it's nice and clean so we don't get any dirt inside the engine. And we want to go ahead and keep making room to get to the valve cover. Alright, so next you want to go ahead and start taking off the valve cover bolts. These are made out of aluminum, so you want to be really careful unbolting them. Most likely they're going to be loose because as the gasket fails and shrinks, that's how you get the leakage to begin with. So taking them off shouldn't be a problem, but putting them back on, we want to make sure we hand tighten those and then torque it with a torque wrench. So I'm going to go ahead and start removing those. There we go. So that is the screw and this is the washer. Our kit did come with replacement washers, so we're going to go ahead and put those back on when we put these back. All right, got my flexi bit on here. I'll put my socket back on. That should help us reach these bottom three. And that's all of them. So the GXs, I mean, all these engines are really prone to leaking from right here, right in this corner. This is where from the factory they put some of that gasket maker sealer, the RTB black stuff, and that's what gives, and as well as the original seal just drying out and cracking over time. So I got all the 10mm bolts out of the valve cover, and we're ready to remove that. We may or may not have to take out the one bolt holding the oil dipstick in place, but we'll see when we get there. I'm gonna go ahead and try and take this off. All right, so what you want to do is continue to make some room for yourself. Get yourself some long nose pliers like this and use that to remove the sensors. And this is your coolant temperature sensor. You want to be careful removing these. Then you want a screwdriver to pop these off. And it's just going to help wiggle them out of the way. So it gives us a little bit more room here to work. Be careful with these wires as they may be brittle. Popping the screwdriver behind here releases it from the mounting point. There we go. I'll just leave the screwdriver there to hold the wire loom out of the way. So we can go ahead and pop the valve cover off here. Let's see. There we go. It's pretty easy. Just gonna go ahead and remove the seal and look at that. So I'm really lucky. I bought this GX back in 2015 with 85,000 miles on it, done all my own oil changes. And what I've seen people who've done this job, previous owners who've never maintained their vehicle properly or do oil changes on time, is you see so much buildup from oil, a lot of sludge in the engine. And I have to say, this engine is spotless clean on the inside. I'm gonna take the camera off the mount here. Give me a second. I gotta take my gloves off and show you guys just how clean this engine is with 150,000 miles on it. Look at that, you guys. It is spotless. So you can see the old gasket there, and right down here, this is where it leaks. And mine has been leaking and dripping down the side of the engine, and it's been dripping a lot on the ground there. But yeah, take a look, see how clean the engine is. These are your dual overhead cams. These are your camshafts. I'm not a mechanic here, but these are the lobes that the valves for your intake and exhaust open and close from. You can see just how clean things are. All right, so I'm gonna put my gloves back on and pull off the old seal here. Okay, so removing the factory seal. Again, this is really brittle, so you don't want to break it. Just peel it off slowly. And there we go. That is the old seal. And this is the corner that's been leaking for me. Let's go ahead and discard this one. So in the far back, those are the two lobes that have to be removed and resealed as well too. So let me show you the seals for the spark plug tubes. So here's a valve cover. These are the factory seals. These are the new Felpro replacements. And what I see a lot of people doing is using a screwdriver or pry bar and prying these tabs open in order to remove these seals. I'm going to go ahead and try to avoid that by using this seal puller. So I imagine this should just go right into here and be able to remove this. I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot and see if I can get some new replacement seals in here. A lot easier than what other people have been doing. See how that goes. So it's tearing out the old one so far. Let's remove some of that material. There we go. Got that in there. Just prying that out. I don't think we can use the tool. There we go. Nice and easy. We'll see about putting these back in, if we have to bend those or not. Although some of these two did bend out a little bit. We'll go on with the next one. So just go ahead and rip out the center part, because this is really hardened up material. It's going to give us room to give for the inside one. Pop that out. All right. And then what you want to do is get your flat screwdriver. Get it in between here. What you want to do is pry it a little bit to the left or right, and then that gives you some room to get the screwdriver in there deeper. There we go. Use the pry tool again. There we go, nice and easy. All right, let's go on to the next one. Once you got it to bend a little bit, get your screwdriver there all the way through. And then again, pry bar tool. Boom. Nice and easy. Now you also want to pay attention to the way these are put in. You have this part facing up, making the seal. So the new ones are going to go in like that. There we go. So yeah, everyone, do yourself a favor and definitely get this seal puller. I'll put the link in the description for it, and that makes your life a lot easier pulling these out, as you can see. Cool. So I got these all out. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean off this valve cover, just like a nice clean engine. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this down and wipe it down with some shop towels here, and get it nice and clean before we reinstall the new seals. Okay, I got the valve cover gasket all cleaned up. You can see it's way better than before. I even did the reverse side as well too. And we are doing the passenger side. So using the Felpro kit, it looks like it is the blue one out of the set versus the black one that matches the passenger side, as you can see here. So we're going to go ahead and press that into place, making sure it is fitted properly. It's got indentations that actually hold the gasket in place, so that is pretty nice when you go to flip it over and install it. So make sure it's all pressed into place, into the grooves. All right, that is all taken care of. Now we're going to go ahead and seat the new seals in there. Okay, so we got the valve cover gasket seal in, and we want to go ahead and start placing these new ones. It's this way up. Now it's really important that we don't bend or deform these. There is a metal casing around here, so we don't want to bend this going in, otherwise it's going to compromise our seal. So it does look like we do have to bend these tabs up, and I found an easy way of doing that. We're going to go ahead and continue using the seal puller that we got, and this makes it really easy to bend these up here. As you see, it's going like that, and then bends those ears up. There we go. This is actually a much better way of doing it than hammering it or using pliers, because this doesn't destroy them. This is like a thin gauge piece of aluminum that's in here to hold these seals into place. Awesome. So now I'm going to use some oil to lubricate the new seal going in. Just need a little bit. Let's get it on all the edges. Now I'm gonna pry these up a little bit more just because I don't want to bend and destroy the new seals. Let's try, I'm gonna grab the long nose pliers. There we go. This makes it a lot easier to keep the integrity of the tabs in place and bend them out of the way. So let's go ahead. Boom. Perfect. So without even using, like what you see most people hammering it in there with a socket, you don't even need that using this method. So we're going to keep on going and add the other ones in there. So we got all of them in there, nice and flush. So except with this one, I'm going to add a little bit more oil to it and try and seat that in with the socket. The first one sat in there nice and flush and perfect. So these are ready to have the tabs bent in. All right, I'll be right back real quick. Okay, I'm going to use the long nose pliers to bend these tabs in the direction they need to go, and then probably use a hammer or something to make them sit flush again. Now off camera, what I did to make sure they were seated in all the way is I used a socket, and I just went ahead and rolled it around like that, making sure it's seated, and just did it by hand, pushing that in. I use the same socket to hammer those tabs back. Now we got all of those seated in properly without destroying or damaging those tabs. Cool, so we are ready to move on to the next step, and I'll see you over back by the engine again. Okay, so now there's two other additional areas that need to be sealed. These two half moon pieces need to be removed and resealed with gasket maker. I tried to remove these and I wasn't able to get them out, so I'm just gonna let them be. Just put a little bit of a RTB over it, on top of it, make sure it continues to seal. It didn't have any leakage in there in the back. It's pretty dry, so you should probably go ahead and remove these and reseal these if you can, but for time's sake it's going to rain here and I need to get this job done, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip sealing those. As far as the engine here, you want to make sure you apply some gasket sealer right in this corner and right up in this corner right here, just like the factory had it before. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, And then we're going to get the valve cover back in here. Okay, so I got the ultra black gasket maker. Again, I'll put a link in the description for this to make it nice and easy for you to find. We're going to go ahead and apply this now. So I've already gone ahead and actually off camera, I've already used a carburetor cleaner spray and a shop towel and cleaned off the whole surface that the gasket seals onto. So this is already nice and clean. So we're gonna have a proper bond with the gasket maker. And just to be sure, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of that again. Just using some carburetor choke cleaner to degrease that. And you want to go a little bit light and not get it in your crankcase. There we go. So make sure both those corners are clean, ready for the application of new RTB. Beautiful, done. All right, cover that area. Make sure and get this other surface here too. Okay, got that vertical surface as well. Let's go ahead over here, do the same thing. Oops, I'll clean that off. Perfect and perfect. I'm gonna apply some in the back there off camera as well too on the half moons. Okay, we got the valve cover all ready to go. All new seals in place. Went ahead and cleaned off this side. I have a Harbor Freight baking soda blaster, so it just kind of cleans up the valve cover, make it kind of look like new again. So I want to make sure I got it lined up properly, all the bolt holes matching, all the spark plug tubes centered over each one of those seals before I press it down over the gasket maker material. So it's going to be a bit of a push. There we go. Slipped over the spark plug tube seals in a tight seal. And everything is in place. Just go ahead and double check, make sure nothing got in the way. All the wires are out of the way. Yep. Everything is properly seated and it looks good. Let's get those bolts. Next I'm gonna get the new washers from the kit and show you how to remove these. Alright, so you want to get your vice grips, channel locks, and hold it by the washer there and get your impact driver and go ahead and zip these out one by one. And just like that, they come off. So I'll go ahead and do this a couple more times and get the new ones on there. So these are all the new seals, washers that come in the kit. We're going to go ahead and put these on one by one. There we go. Just going to keep doing that. There we go. Okay, so we got all the new washers on the bolts, and we're going to go ahead and start putting them in one by one. I'm going to go ahead and hand thread them on there. Now, I don't have a torque wrench with me today, so I'm just going to hand snug these until I get one later, and then these are easily accessible. So having one of these swivel attachments goes a long way for these bottom bolts. We want to make sure we tighten these in a even pattern, so there's not too much pressure on one side or another, so we get a even seating of the gasket. New seal, actually. Hand snug these. It's pretty much impossible to over torque it this way. And I'll come back later again and use a proper torque wrench, which I'll order online, and I'll put a link in the description where you can find one that's the right sensitivity for the right foot-pounds. Now, I believe it should be tightened to 40 foot-pounds, but I need to double check that. Just keep going around and tightening it, because you'll see some are loose as you went around tightening the other ones. Perfect. So we got those all hand tight. I'll just show you up close how things are looking. Nice and clean. All our ignition coil wires in the spot. And we're ready to put back our ignition coils. I've recently replaced these, so it doesn't matter what order they go back in. Go ahead and Always make sure to hand thread your bolts so you don't have any cross threading. Okay, and now we can tighten those. Just make sure you hold on to the ignition coil. These are made out of plastic for the most part, so don't want to over torque them. Okay, we got the airbox back, hose it off, nice and clean. Stick it back through the fender, line up the holes. Gonna hand thread the bolts back in. Again, this is a 12 millimeter. So we're gonna use our 12 socket. All right, and we're gonna reattach our ground from our wiring harness. So 10 millimeter. So our mass airflow sensor wire. And then next we're gonna clean out the intake over here. Yours may or may not be dirty around the butterfly valve. Okay, so that is servo control, and you are able to use your fingers to open it up, but I'm just gonna spray it and clean it off. Just use some carburetor cleaner. Okay, we're gonna reinstall the intake ducting. Slips right on. And we're gonna start cinching things up and hooking up our vacuum lines again. Let's get the top half of our airbox. Put our air filter back in. Now make sure you seat this properly so the gasket seal doesn't slip off or deform when you go to put the lid back on. So what I recommend is moving that ducting out of the way and make sure you actually seat this on here well and double check it's seated properly on the bottom, and then close and secure it. That way you know the seal is seated properly and non-deformed. Hook up our mass airflow sensor and hook back up the ducting for the intake. Okay, now we can start to tighten up those hose clamps. These do have a plastic clip and looks like metal as well too. Just want to make sure you don't over tighten it. And then we want to hook up our small vacuum line here and put the wire harness, clip it back in. There's another vacuum line here. And then you have the one larger hose that connects to the crankcase. So on this one I'm going to replace at some point. It has a crack in here. So check yours out. These are pretty dry and crispy. Again, we're going to use the hose clamp pliers. Again, if you don't have this, it's a really nice tool to have. It just fits on here. That way you're not using pliers that just always slide off. And they lock and hold in place too when you need it to. And there we go. So that's the passenger side all done. I'll go ahead and reach under there and secure that side as well. But that takes care of the passenger side valve cover on the Lexus GX470. Next, I'll show you how to do the right side for the driver's side. All right, so we're gonna start the driver's side. Gonna use our tool again and start removing some of these. All of these hoses are really dry rotted out and just cracking, so I'm gonna have to get some replacements. These ones are your fuel lines. You don't want to mess with those two, so just leave them intact. You do got to take off the 10mm support bracket holding those in place. Grab my flat screwdriver for the ignition coils and slowly see if I can pry the clip without breaking it. The last one's really hard to reach, so I'm gonna remove that bracket there for the fuel line. That one is also shorty. Got one. Two. Three. Now these have a rubber seal here, that's to keep water out. Sometimes that might stick to the valve cover head, so just make sure those are stuck back on the ignition coil, not left sitting on there. Okay, so same thing on this side. We're gonna go ahead and start removing the bolts to get the valve cover out of there. There we go. Okay, so this side is a little bit more grimy. Pulling off the old seal. There we go. This is the old one. I'll just discard that. All right, so I pretty much did the same thing on the other side. I went ahead and cleaned out the valve cover, put in the new seal. The seal for the driver's side is the black one in the Felpro kit. And as you can see, I got the new seals here for the spark plugs. And now we're ready to place this back in. Let's go ahead and get it back in here. Now what you want to do is line up the spark plug tubes. Once you got those lined up, you push down and the seal slide over those tubes, making that seal, and it pushes down on that gasket maker that we added. And there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing I did on the other side. Let me put some new rubber washers on these bolts and I'll be right back. All right, all the bolts got all the new rubber washers on there, and we're gonna go ahead and start threading these. Alright, gonna grab the 10mm and the swivel socket, and we're gonna start hand tightening those down. Let's see. Just gonna go back around again, snug them up. Alright, so I got all the valve cover bolts all snugged and tight, and now we're ready to put the ignition coils back in, so we're just gonna go ahead and start putting those back one at a time. And thread the bolts back in. Let's get the wiring harness put back. Got the ground connection, we're gonna do that first. The short bolt goes here. Alright, that's the last ignition coil. Now we're going to bolt that bracket for the fuel line support using the last 10mm bolt we got. And let's see, I believe we're done. We got to put a vacuum hoses back. I'm going to grab those. Then we're going to use our hose clamp tool. Okay, so we finished putting in our last vacuum hose there, and we button up all the other vacuum hose connections, and that completes the job for the valve cover gaskets for the Toyota 2UZ-FE V8 engines. This engine was widely used in Toyotas and Lexuses, so you can easily repair your valve cover gaskets in a day's worth of time. I'd say the overall job took me about 4 hours, working pretty leisurely, and I even took a break in the middle and a lunch. And this is the rig. It is all done. No more leaking oil on the driveway. And that's it. Enjoy, take care, follow, subscribe. Peace.